I mean, that's the ideal thought. That's the thought you always have when you pick a Kog'Maw in your lineup. Might not win, especially levels 1 through 5. At level 6, you do get that living artillery, which gives you a little extra oomph in those trades down and bottom. But, I mean, you're always going for, okay, let's try to get Kog'Maw a lot of farm. But when you're matched up against a very aggressive lane, a lane that was very aggressive last game as well, and a lane that won last game, against a really, a much safer lineup in my opinion, with that Ezreal and Soraka lineup where they have, the escape and they have a lot of poke, how do you then expect to turn around and win this one? Are they going to get a little love from Cyanide? Are they going to get a little attention, a little focus on that bottom lane? Perhaps they need that. At the same time, I mean, all the other lanes, want the jungler's attention as well. And the Olaf versus Malphite matchup can be very, very close. I've seen that go either way. The idea about Olaf and winning that lane is, of course, the Reckless Swing true damage will be able to chunk down Malphite. Malphite will eventually run out of mana quicker than Olaf will. That's the idea behind the lane. But I've seen it go the other way because, time and time again, I've seen Olaf players, and these are pro players, not just solo queue or low-level players. Actual pro players underestimate the amount of damage that Malphite can do at level 6.
Yeah, I wonder what if Malphite or if Cyanide is now going to guarantee that top lane victory for Malphite and not run the risk of those reckless swings being able to chunk him down and give him the advantage. Or, like you said, if we're going to see him pushing on the bottom lane, you've got a lineup from Fnatic here that screams we're nervous in the lane, but we're comfortable in the team fights. Every single one of these teams or these lanes has got somewhat of an earlier advantage on behalf of Team Eclypsia, but it's going to come down to actually making that advantage happen, playing aggressively. And of course, if you're playing aggressive and it doesn't work, you give up more kills, you give up your position in the lane and farm, etc., and potentially allow your counterparts actually to pull ahead in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one exception to that is Orianna should have a decent laning phase against Morgana. Should be able to get a little bit of an advantage there, I feel. If you have a moment, take at the runes and masteries of the top lane. I really like them. I like what both of these laners have done with their runes and masteries.
Yeah, taking a look at Soaz right now, plus 175 health, and of course is at level 18, 78 at level 1, 6 armor and 8 physical damage. For a Malphite, that is just going to be doing so effectively. 326-1, so super tanky defensive Malphite. Olaf, on the other hand, masteries page of 914-7. So once again, going for somewhat of a non-traditional masteries page in terms of his runes. 20 magic resist, 8.5 physical damage, 26 health and 13 armor. So really good rune and mastery selections from both champions. And I wonder what's going to pay off at those early levels, considering you've got two vastly different skill sets in terms of the champions and how they play. And of course, pretty different in terms of their runes and masteries as well.
Yeah, it's hard to tell how it's going to pay off. I like that Malphite's focusing on that health per level, but he doesn't get the armor, and he synergizes so well with armor. Of course, I think we'll see him build towards armor items very early on, so that'll be a big bonus there. And Olaf, I like the extra little health he got in his runes, a good chunk of magic resistance. He should be very tanky. Over in the jungle, we see I'm So Fresh running that 25 armor pen page, 5.7 attack speed, and as we mentioned yesterday and throughout the tournament, a lot of junglers like this, but that is a rune page specifically made for ganking, because a lot of that armor penetration is wasted on the jungle mobs. They don't have that much armor. You're not going to be doing extra damage to them because of it. It's mainly just to get into those lanes and do that much more damage.
And just to touch on the health again, I know I'm going back to the top lane, but you've said it a couple of times in the past that if you're worried about a lot of true damage, if you're worried about that, tending to build HP is sort of one of the better counters because it's going to happen. There's no way to mitigate it or reduce it. But what I like about that in particular with Olaf, it's going to give the advantage against the Reckless Swings or make life a little easier against Reckless Swing. And the passive armor shield from his passive rather is also going to help out against one or two of those auto attacks that's going to land immediately after the Reckless Swing or of course through the Undertow. So it's a pretty interesting one.
I mean, I certainly like it. I like how both of the top laners are taking this game very seriously, really forming their rune pages, their masteries, everything they can to give them the advantage in this particular matchup. And so we're going to see kind of a, I feel like a best scenario of these two top laners against each other. The only other thing I've seen really work against a Malphite is running those hit point regeneration quintessences, and that works because Malphite tends to whittle you down. He tends to send out a Seismic Shard, send out a Ground Slam, very slowly whittle you down, and then he gets you to half life, and at level 6 he just bursts you with that Unstoppable Force, Ignite, Unstoppable or Ground Slam, Seismic Shard, and is able to chase you down to a good extent. Not able to chase Olaf down quite as well because of course he can use his own ultimate to ignore a lot of that or all of that crowd control. So we'll see how it turns out. Cyanide running the same rune page he was running last game, a lot of attack speed and that GP10. I do like that. I think that's a generally good idea, but he has to make sure that he's not going to lose early on very much. Are we going to see more counter jungling from Nocturne? I don't know. We shall see.
It's definitely going to, play into their favor if they can, because of course Maokai, again, not necessarily one of the fastest clearers in the game. The skin war once again in favor of Fnatic, but that didn't seem to play into their favor in the previous round.
No.
I would like to see now how do they respond? How is Cyanide going to play differently this game? And I'm a little bit nervous about Soaz because he had a 370 odd ping for the entire duration of that loading screen. So I really hope we're not going to be plagued by connection related issues for the semi-final games.
Yeah, I really hope not. I noticed the same thing. He doesn't tend to have that bad of ping. Certainly didn't see that in the first game as we were loading in, and I think that is something I would have noticed. So unfortunate, but hopefully it doesn't factor in. Perhaps, sometimes, even the players, going into big games could be downloading some extra music, something else for their playlist to get them going. So perhaps it was just a function of downloading and not really anything they had to worry about otherwise. We do see a pause coming out though, and it is from Soaz, so that is not good. That is not a good sign.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a bit nerve-wracking. The ward is illegal according to Lamia. Soaz's baguette connection. I quite like that one. So we're just waiting for Soaz to try and resolve the problem. It may be another situation of emails, if I recall correctly. Dad sending emails causing the lag. And of course, once we get back into this one, while we have a moment or two while the game is loading, it'll be awesome. Maybe I should show you guys the sponsors program for this evening. It is, of course, Raidcall, guys. So go check that one out, raidcall.com. It is a voice over IP program, and it is it's being used by a lot of the teams, being used by a lot of the players in terms of communicating with one another and getting in touch. So check this one out. There is a room called Caster Chat in Fnatic's lobby, which is 133714. And myself and Zote will be doing a Q&A session after the whole stream later this evening. So, come sign up, register your account, check out the program, free to use, and it's really, really cool. Zote, have the players said anything yet in chat after our little moment of silence here?
No, they have not given any indication of what is exactly happening, but Soaz, just as you were asking me, has reconnected, so it looks like we will be getting ready to go. They are sending down all their readies in chat, and it should be restarting momentarily.
Sweet. Don't forget, once we do go live, we do need to just quickly fast forward to hit the actual live time. Sadly, it puts us about a second or two behind. So we're just waiting for this one to kick off once again. And I'd like to know in chat, who do you think is going to be victorious here? Eclypsia have 1-0 up in terms of the scoreline, and this is a best of 3. So place your votes in chat, Fnatic or Eclypsia, to pick up game number 2. EC moved all the way forward. They placed that Wraith ward, which is immediately followed by a Fnatic ward in the same place. Why would you put that as a defensive ward?
Just to be sure that they weren't coming in and being, further aggressive, weren't actually stealing the red buff. They didn't want to commit their whole team to waiting in the brush. So since they didn't have, their whole team there, they wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be invaded, or at least know that if it was going to be invaded. And we do see kind of an interesting strategy. Cyanide is still going to go after this Wraith camp, still going to throw down those saplings, knows that he's being spotted, knows that they can see this, but there's going to be no counter. So it works out in the end. hand for him, is able to take that camp just a little bit faster, and Xpeke being very, very careful, roaming around his own jungle, sending out that command attack ball, just allowing him to be certain that he's not going to be killed. So really great job of patience and care there.
And take a look at the top lane. Morgana and Olaf taking those double golems, so giving Olaf halfway through to level 2. And with that very, very strong leash that Cyanide has taken on the blue buff, it does mean that Malphite is going to miss 1 or 2 creeps up in this top lane. He's going to be a little bit behind, and you know, Olaf with Undertow and Reckless Swing at level 2 is quite scary.
Yeah, he has to be one of the best level 2 fighters. Him along with Hale, probably the scariest top laners to go against at level 2, because they have, you know, essentially a slow that can, you know, slow you down, not permanently, but for a good long while. Down bottom, Killwar is actually forced to use his first health potion already, because there was a lot of aggression coming down from Lamia. There remains a lot of aggression coming down from Lamia, and Havoc wasn't able to get to lane until a little bit later, was helping out Nocturne go through his camps, and Nocturne, you know, doing a good job clearing his camps, is about to pick up red buff. Maokai a little bit behind in so far as killing the red buff, but has picked up more farm thus far, is at 15 CS to the 10, and that's thanks to, you know, doing those raids first and getting that little bit of advantage that Maokai allows you with those early saplings.
And take a look at that. At 3 minutes on the clock, Killwar has used 2 of his 3 potions that he's come into lane with. Lamia not really afraid right now. Every time that Bioarcane Barrage is up, he activates it, pushes forward, lands a couple of auto attacks, and then backs off, because of course the infuse from Soraka is going to keep him topped up on mana all day long.
Right, and he also keeps on spamming down those Void Oozes, just doing a little bit of damage with that. He knows, oh, I have infinite mana, I'm just going to keep on using this. So good ward protection from Phalanx and Lamia down in bottom. They have a ward in the back brush, they have a ward in the river, and we actually see Eclypsia pinging it down on where all the wards are, you know, letting Nocturne know, okay, these are where the wards are, this is how long they're, you know, this is how long we assume they're going to be there. And, you know, right now Fnatic looking good in that bottom lane, but only 1 ward left for Soraka. So once that, you know, once those previously placed 2 wards go down, he kind of has to make a judgment call. Do I ward the river or do I ward the back brush?
Yeah, it's a lot of decisions to make in the top lane though. Malphite may have been in trouble from Nocturne, but his lane is pretty pushed. And he's just going to have to play a little bit cautiously. A lot of fallback pings coming out from that middle lane. And something else to consider, Lamia and Phalanx now pushing down this bottom lane very, very aggressively, using that Bioarcane Barrage, using that Void Ooze to try and push the tower. Oh, we do see Cyanide meets I'm So Fresh. Arcane Smash goes out. Cyanide carries on running back to safety. Does actually get to the little ramp, but once Lamia gets a couple more points in that Bioarcane, he's going to be able to poke down Ezreal quite effectively under the tower and make life quite difficult for him in terms of last hitting.
Yeah, Killwar, I mean, obviously a very good AD carry. We saw him last game do a stellar job, and he's, you know, doing a good job of pushing back the lane, not allowing it to get underneath his turret. So he knows he doesn't want to, you know, farm underneath that turret. We do see some more aggression coming down up top.
Soaz is going to be caught by this unspeakable horror, flashes away at the very, very last second. First blood is going to be picked up by Soaz. Ignite is ticking away on him. He is going to go down. Cyanide wants Nocturne though. Going to carry on chasing. I'm So Fresh. Has that Duskbringer landed? So the movement speed, and I believe he ignores unit collision while he's traveling on that as well. Manages to poke a little bit, Ooh. But first blood going to Fnatic. Now in the bottom lane, Sona is going to put a lot of damage down. 1 more auto attack from Killwar means that Soraka is going to get taken down, but a lot of summoner spells blown for that. Flash, ignite for Eclypsia. Lamia not opting to use his flash, and Phalanx not using his exhaust either. That exhaust definitely would have saved him. While all of this is happening, a low mana Cyanide cannot catch I'm So Fresh. But Eclypsia once again with a kill advantage.
Yes, once again, picking up that kill in that bottom lane is big as well. You really need to pick up those kills early on, especially last game we saw Havoc, you know, not running those GP10, probably not running GP10 once again. Oh my goodness, and more aggression. Killwar does pick up that kill on Lamia. That was beautifully done, and it's going to escape as well.
Yeah, and I don't really understand what Lamia was doing there. He didn't have a heal, he didn't have exhaust, and it was pretty apparent that Kill War was going to be playing aggressively, but Lamia decided to chill there, decided to stay in the lane, and I think he could have backed earlier, potentially saving himself from going down and giving yet another kill to Ezreal.
Yeah, but really great job from Shlaya as well to camp in the jungle, ensure that Orianna was not going to make their way down there. They knew Maokai was still up top, so they had the advantage of being aggressive, and now we see Morgana coming in on Phalanx. No flash on Phalanx. This is almost certainly a death.
He's going to start off with the Soul Shackles. Ignite has now gone down to Phalanx as well. Soul Shackles plus Dark Binding and Tormented Soil. Phalanx easily taken down. It was a full combo from Morgana, so at the very least, Ignite is going to be unavailable for the better part of the next 3 minutes, but you pick up a kill, it's more than a fair trade.
Yes, certainly that kill for an Ignite, you take that trade any day, even on a Soraka who already had been killed, was only worth 273 gold as opposed to the general 300 gold. I mean, obviously when you do get kills, you prefer to get assists as well. Oh my gosh, so much aggression coming down from Kill War bottom, and a Phage proc as well, and Lami is going to go down once again.
Yeah, easy kill for Kill War, just continually landing all of those auto attacks, landing the Mystic shots, and of course luckily being able to pick up that Phage proc. It is only a 25% chance, but when you've got enough time to get off 8 to 12 auto attacks, 1 in 4 is definitely going to get you that Phage slow.
Absolutely. And now the farm 66 to 43 on Kog'Maw. I mean, you mentioned their strategy from Fnatic, and, you know, I agreed. This is what they want to do. They want to protect Kog'Maw. They want to allow Kog'Maw to really just, you know, survive early game, get him into that late game where he can be really effective. Oh my goodness, up top we see a lot of damage coming down on Zelor.
Unstoppable Force immediately followed up with the Ignite and the Vengeful Maelstrom. It was a bit strange seeing the Twisted Advance going out, and Olaf still continues running, but of course Ragnarok is going to give him the ability to not get crowd controlled. But really good damage from Malphite. His base numbers are huge, 205 at level 1, his Ground Slam hitting for another 200, and Seismic Shard for another 120. If this Unspeakable Horror doesn't go his way, he could be in more trouble. Double buff on I'm So Fresh, chunking away Soaz as much as he can, but all that hit points and all that armor means Soaz is effectively able to just walk away from it.
Yeah. In mid lane, Xpeke is doing a good job of farming up 85 to the 68 of Morgana, and I think that's in large part because Morgana, you know, camped around bottom for a really long time. But even still, I mean, that is a good advantage. And now we see Xpeke not able to take that big wraith, but is able to put a little bit of damage down on Shlaya.
He's going to carry on landing a couple more auto attacks. Blue buff is ticking away, but he doesn't have enough mana for really spamming the full combination and why not. And take a look at how Peke is actually playing Orianna, opting to go for the command attack over the command dissonance build. So a slight change from what we've seen in the previous game.
Yes, whereas before we saw the dissonance coming down from Shlaya as the prioritized spell. I really liked how that turned out for them, obviously, but you know, a different strategy here seems to be going well for Xpeke. Is winning their lane for the most part here, and is able to avoid a gank there, and perhaps it's going to be some early dragon aggression coming down from Eclypsia.
And we did see them with some really good dragon control in the previous game. So, you know, we know that Peke is now recalled. We know that Soraka and Kog'Maw are a little bit afraid. And with both Olaf, Morgana, and Nocturne, this dragon is just going to get melted so quickly.
Yeah, and Fnatic actually knew exactly what was happening. You know, Orianna saw them coming down from the top lane, knew that they were going to take the dragon, decided to just back off, let them have dragon. They do have the advantage here. Our whole strategy is to get to the late game and to do a good job. So, you know, looks like they will just go ahead and wait this one out and continue farming.
It's a risky play, though. I mean, you know, yeah, fair enough. Cog is going to scale hard. So is Malphite is going to, you know, get better and better the game goes. But allowing Eclypsia to pick up those early dragons, giving them the advantage in the lane, is not going to play out to their favor if in this mid-game phase. If they're unable to defend against a farmed or fed Eclypsia, it's going to be worrying. While I've been saying that, though, they're only 1,000 gold ahead, and that is because of the crazy amount of GP10 items on the side of Fnatic.
Yeah, and kind of an unusual build coming down from Olaf in that top lane as well, picking up 2 Doran's Blades, and now has, you know, more components of a Heart of Gold and Philosopher's Stone, but has not yet bought them. So it's going to be, you know, 12 minutes in, it's going to be, you know, decently late in the game when he does pick up those GP10 items, which I do feel like he still has plans on doing. But are they really going to pay off? Are they going to be incredibly effective once he gets out of that laning phase, where that's when you really need that regen, that hit point and mana regen is in the laning phase. You don't really need it so much as you get into those team fights, because they tend to be, you know, 5 to 10 second affairs, and then nothing happens after that.
Yeah, very, very true. So Raidcall's Lantern completed on Nocturne. We see he's just placed another ward there in that Wraith camp. The aggression on this bottom lane from both Killwall and Havoc has been non-stop. Lamia using those living artilleries to try and farm up the lane as best he can. How has it actually affected CS? 72 CS to 113. But take a look in the middle lane. Peke 129 to 100 on Morgana. What twisted dimension are we in when Morganas are being out-farmed by Orianas?
Well, they were in a dimension where Sly...
Oh, look at that. Crescendo onto Lamia. He immediately cleanses off it. The exhaust is down on I'm So Fresh. Now the Eclypsia has turned their attention to Soraka. Underneath the tower, she's going to go down. Is the Kythian surprise going to be enough to pick up the kill? A flash from Havoc as he is afraid. Arcane smash into the sapling toss. Picks up 1 kill for Cyanide, but he's immediately forced to flash over the wall. The Vengeful Maelstrom pops and hits some more damage onto Killwall. So sort of a 1-for-1 trade. 2-for-1 trade, in fact. But Cogbull, the damaging carry, the one that really needs to scale hard, is over 50 CS behind right now.
Right, and he just lost both Cleanse and Flash, and it didn't get him out of the predicament, so that is not a good situation, and that's why Nocturne's so frequently banned, because he, you know, has these ganks, you can't get him off you, and he can come in from anywhere. But as you mentioned before, only 600 gold lead coming for Eclypsia, so they're kind of falling behind, or not falling behind, they're being kept up with, you know, overall, thanks to the solo lane farming, for the most part, 110 to 81 in that top lane, that's a 30 CS difference, and mid lane 147 to 112, that's 35 CS. So 65 to 70 CS lead in those solo lanes is really helping overcome those 4 deaths and the, you know, the dominance from the bottom lane of Eclypsia.
How does it actually equate in terms of gold? Morgana, 4,000 gold on Morgana, so 4,800 on Peke, so one of those GP10s ahead effectively. Top lane Malphite 4,700 to Olaf's 3,800, so nearly a full 1,000 gold advantage. In terms of our bottom laners, oh, that is huge. Cogmore 3,200 to Ezreal's 5,500, and I just noticed Trinity Force is completed at 14 minutes. I mean, that is
We do
huge.
see top lane.
Oh, I completely missed that one, unfortunately. So we do see that Olaf went down, and while that's happening, on the bottom lane, somebody else goes down as well. So is that a 1-for-1 trade? It is a Lamia for a Zelzor. What happened in that top lane engagement?
In the top lane, it looked like it was going to be a gank coming down from Nocturne, but Maokai was already waiting in the brush. Engagement with Unstoppable Force, and Zelzor was already a little bit low just thanks to all the poke, so they won that 2-for-2 engage, really came out ahead. Obviously Zelzor having some issues in that top lane, did pick up some Merc Treads, but still doesn't have those GP10 items, which I feel like he needs to pick up. And Orianna doing such a great job in middle lane, and has 3 GP10s, so is out farming Morgana, has a lot more potential gold incoming, but you know, when it gets to late game, what I feel matters most is that bottom lane, is that AD carry. So is Kog'Maw going to be able to come back against this Ezreal, you know, Ezreal combination down there with Sona that continues to be so aggressive? You know, every time they get back to lane, they want to be aggressive against Kog'Maw. They do not want to let him farm. And you know, the difference is still about 50 CS. So they're not really increasing their CS difference, but they're not allowing Kog'Maw to get up to that farm level that he needs. I mean, at this point, he's half the farm that Orianna has, just to give, you know, an indication of where he should be in farm and where he actually is.
Lamia and Phylox finally noticing something's fishy, something's a bit weird. There's no Morgana on the map. We obviously don't know where Nocturne is, and they start to fall back. You can actually see on the minimap that Nocturne was setting himself in a position where his paranoia was potentially going to be in range, and could have seen another aggressive dive, but instead they've fallen back. And even with a 4-kill advantage and now the tower, it is only the 1,000 gold lead. Consider that Eclypsia have a tower ahead. They also have a dragon to their name. Those GP10s are very strong. but are they going to be able to contain Ezreal in these big team fights? Are they going to be able to hold Kill War back once we actually have these bigger 3v3 to 5v5 engagements?
It's going to be tough. I mean, they're focusing so much of their attention on that top lane, on Olaf, which is the standard, which is how kind of the meta goes nowadays. You really focus on that top lane in ganks. But Olaf is always going to be able to do, most of the same amount of damage that he would do anyway. He's still going to be able to get to those back lines. Still should be, plenty tanky, and be able to survive long enough to put some damage onto that Kog'Maw because, he's so based off of that true damage, has that tankiness. He's still going to be able to build up that tankiness. He is certainly way behind in lane, but does that mean that he's not going to be effective late game? No, I think he will likely be more effective than this Kog'Maw who's really being kept down.
And take a look.
Once again, being taken out.
Yeah, take a look on this bottom lane. Crescendo has not even been used by Havoc, not even necessary. Soraka nowhere nearby, so not able to save Lamia. He's now 0 for 5. I didn't actually see how much gold he was worth. It can't be all that much right now.
No, he's getting towards that range where he's about worth like 70 gold. I think he's still at 0-5, be worth about 150 perhaps? That would be my guess. I didn't see. I will actually jump back as I have the luxury of doing that, and I'll let you know exactly how much he's worth.
So now Eclypsia are starting to roll this one ahead a little bit further. They picked up another tower on this bottom lane, and they're going to carry on pushing. Morgana has actually gone very, very low. Does manage to pick up the kill against Schleier, in fact, actually picking that one up against Peke, even though he's so far behind. The full combination from both champions, Flash, Ignite was used, Soul Shackles, and that Dark Binding. So powerful. Orianna only using her Ignite, and then of course the full combination as well, but so low on hit points. Those GP10s, this is the argument. This is something that's a bit worrying. If Orianna had opted to go for a slightly more standard abilities with more ability power, she would have killed Morgana in that situation. Potentially, but unfortunately not having the additional ability power means that Morgana is the one that actually picks up the kill and walks away with 2-0-0 right now.
I mean, there's really no doubt in my mind that fight would have gone different if Xpeke had picked up 3 Doran's rings into a catalyst or even some ability power. Anything, GP10 items are really not cost efficient when you buy them. They're really the worst upgrades you could get, with that extra gold. So that's the weakness of them. You really have to have a strong laner that can survive and win those trades even without the benefit. We are seeing a very, very early Baron being attempted here from Fnatic to try to get them back into this game.
While Baron is down to 7,000 hit points, the fact that they have Kog'Maw there is definitely going to help them take Baron buff, but Eclypsia have got up very, very close. They've managed to scare Fnatic away, and that 2,500 gold lead at this stage in the game is pretty significant when you look at the items on your AD carries. Ezreal, Trinity Force, and a BF Sword and Vamp Scepter. His lane counterpart has not finished a Phantom Dancer yet. That is an immense amount of damage difference between these two carries.
It is not a good thing. Looks like Ezreal's going to pick up that blue buff out of fear that it gets stolen by the living artillery, and now we might see some aggression on Malphite as well.
Soaz is going to try to get away. He does have Unstoppable Force and Flash if it is required. No Crescendo from Soraka, so Soaz very, very wisely is able to walk away. Morgana and Nocturne now setting up in this top tri-bush. Dark Binding goes out, does not manage to find anybody, and look at the creeps on the bottom lane. Eclypsia doing so well in that bottom lane. Their creep wave is pushing down to the inhibitor turret, and now we see Eclypsia pinging on Baron. They know that Cog is at least 10 to 20 seconds away, and they are in fact going to start this Baron buff if Malphite and Maokai can get in range. Dark Binding just barely missing Cyanide. We do see the Shirelia's Reverie going out. Vengeful Maelstrom has now gone down. True Shot Barrage doesn't manage to catch on top of anyone. Cyanide's going to be the first member to fall. The rest of Eclypsia have turned their attention over to Soraka and Malphite. Now Soaz, he does have Unstoppable Force available. Is going to be forced to flash away. Is going to think about that Unstoppable Force in the background. Orianna trying to put some damage down into the jungle, and just nothing going to be able to come of it. Malphite throwing out the Ignite and the Unstoppable. Felox trying to deny himself, but I don't think he's going to be able to get away from Kill War. Kill War with a beautiful Mystic Shot between the creeps picks that one up. Schleier will go down. Lamia actually picks that kill up, so he's finally on the scoreboard, and he also has that blue buff, which is going to be integral to defending this Baron if Eclypsia go for it.
Oh my goodness, look at Kill War. Knows Expected is there.
Come on, Protect comes out. Bioarcane Barrage is bashing away. Finally, Kill War goes down. That must have been a huge gold bonus. Plus 600 gold.
100.
I'm actually going to rewind that one and play that in slow-mo for you. So actually see, there goes Kill War. Expected goes down to 200 hit points. The Shockwave ignites and then Protect goes up. And I think Vision was just lost from Kill War. Flashes away for the last little auto attack. And Lamia does manage to pick it up, compliments of that very long range on his Bioarcane Barrage. But a 9-1-1 Ezreal is terrifying.
It is terrifying, but that fight didn't go as bad for Fnatic as it certainly could have. They at least picked up that Ezreal in the end, and Ezreal was worth 3 kills all on his own. Of course, you know, the initial 300 and the extra 600 gold for those killing sprees. So I mean, that was essentially a 3-kill swing right at the very end there, where it could have gone either way. We do see, you know, Oracle's still up on I'm So Fresh, so they still have the potential to set up, you know, another Baron bait here.
Take a look at the gold differences now. We pointed out on Ezreal a little bit earlier, and he was very, very far ahead. Still extremely far ahead. 9,000 gold to Cogmore's 6,000. I mean, that's just shy of an infinity edge between them. In terms of our mid lane, it's 9,000 on Orianna to 7,300 on Morgana. But Morgana has more items that are actually beneficial to her. Admittedly, Orianna has completed that Rabadon's death cap, so has additional ability power. What is she currently sitting on right now, in fact? 251, as opposed to, in fact, 228 on Morgana. So more AP for Orianna. And those GP10s. Do you think we'll finally start seeing things going in favor of Peke this time around?
I mean, they really have to wait until their next big ticket item. Morgana does have less AP, but that's, you know, a function of building that Zhonya's Hourglass, which gives her such great team fighting presence, able to really zone people out with that Soul Shackles, then popping that Zhonya's Hourglass, making her invulnerable for that 2 seconds. So yeah, while the AP does slightly favor Orianna, I still like Morgana's build right now. As of this moment, she still has the advantage coming into these team fights, and that's big. I mean, because the next team fight might be a big one. The next team fight will likely decide who gets Baron, and if it's going to be Eclypsia, they're going to really have their early game presence pay off for them, you know, and potentially lead them to a win.
Take a look in terms of the item or the farm right now. We've looked at the gold, we've looked at some of them. Cyanide, only 73 CS. His lane counterpart, 151. That is an immense difference between the two junglers.
Yeah, that is a big difference. Nocturne has been stealing quite a bit from the lanes. We are seeing Fnatic just pushing down this middle turret, not going to be answered. Everyone wasn't in position, namely Olaf. Zelzor was off in the top lane. Wasn't able to, you know, appropriately respond to that. But now we see some pings going down on Baron. It looks like the saplings did catch them out. Or did they?
Now we're going to see So as he's trying to get away. Shirelius Ruby comes out, is going to actually get caught by one of them. Now we see a Void who's coming out. Crescendo lands on the 3 members of Fnatic, but Schleier is so low. Zhonya's Hourglass is going to keep him alive for a couple seconds more, but Olaf and Nocturne able to dive to the backlines, take out Lamia. While all that's going on, So as somehow is still alive. How has he not gone down? He's the only one that managed to pick up a kill on the Fnatic roster. He was the one that was initiated upon. But Olaf and Nocturne doing so well in that team fight, diving straight through everybody and picking up the kills onto Lamia and Peke in the back line. So as was thinking about juking into the bush, very wisely tries to pick up that movement speed from the Wraith camp. And Felox, in fact, almost going down to minions in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and that was a crazy fight, and I really thought that was going to go in Fnatic's way. Such a great shockwave, but what happened from Soaz is just kind of a whiff on the unstoppable force, which is really unfortunate for them.
I didn't actually see who did he manage to hit with the unstoppable, or if anyone.
No one. That is why it was a whiff. It did not land on anyone. It was a very short range, you know, unstoppable force, and I actually had to go back and review it because I was like, did he actually use it? When did he actually use it? Did he land it on anyone? Didn't look like he landed on anyone. It could have possibly been a dodge by Morgana using that Zhonya's Hourglass at the exact same time, but I'm not certain that was the case. I think it might have just missed regardless. So really unfortunate, and that could have gone really well. Obviously, the diving power of Nocturne and Olaf really proved themselves. Even though Olaf is, pretty far behind, he has rushed that Stark, or that Zeke's Herald rather, so he's going to be really helpful to his team and still be able to get those back lines and put a ton of pressure on whomever he happens to be chasing.
And his particular team lineup that works so well, Nocturne, Olaf, and Ezreal, all of them auto attackers, they're all going to benefit from the attack speed, they're all going to benefit from the lifesteal, so I really, really like that. So as in a position where he may get caught out, let's see if we are going to see a dive. Paranoia not available, unfortunately, and we are going to see the two top laners bashing heads against one another. So as you're going the wrong way, man. He is starting to fall back. Red buff Tings is going to go out. Seismic Shard gets used to pick up some movement speed, and luckily he is going to fall back. But look at Lamia very aggressively pushing this middle lane.
Well, I feel like he just wants to get farm any way he can. He's like, I'm almost up to my Infinity Edge. I want to get it. I'm about, I think, still 900 gold away, so I need to do something about it. But now that they know Lamia's running away that way, I mean, this could be a time where they want to force Baron. They have that Oracles. They can clear out these wards. They haven't done a great job of clearing them out, unfortunately. But instead, they're just going to push down middle, it seems.
Yeah, Fnatic getting very, very scared. Talking about the farm and seeing how Lamia is doing it, take a look at Peck here. 289 CS at the 28-minute mark. He's had those GP10s ticking over for ages, almost at 11,000 gold. A full 1,500 gold ahead of the 10-1-3 Ezreal. So when you think about those numbers very, very carefully, 10-1-3, and he's behind the gold leader for the game. That is immense.
I mean, yeah, that is crazy. Those GP10s clearly paying off in the terms of overall gold coming out, but, Xpeke has 2,200, 2,400 gold sitting in his pocket, and he's 0-2 and 3. So he has a lot of gold sitting in his pocket, not being used, and Eclypsia really needs to make something happen. I mean, they're against the ticking time bomb of Soraka. There is a great teamfight lineup coming down from Fnatic. They won a teamfight, but they weren't able to capitalize, with that Baron. They haven't been able to really push down the turrets that they want to. I mean, they got those bottom lane turrets really, really early on, so I feel like they need to force something to happen because Malphite is so close to becoming completely unstoppable. He's going to be so strong, and then Kog'Maw is going to pick up his Infinity Edge, which means he's actually going to be doing decent damage relatively shortly here.
Is it going to be enough once Ezreal finishes off this last Whisper? He's just picked it up right now, so he's got all that armor penetration. Is the itemization and the health from Malphite going to be enough for him to actually challenge Ezreal and force Ezreal out of a fight?
I think it will be. I think he will do enough damage with his initial burst, especially if it's combined with that, potentially that command protect shockwave, to really push him out of the fight entirely. I mean, Ezreal has a lot of items, but he doesn't have a lot of defensive items, really none to speak of. One Doran's Blade, and that, of course, Trinity Force giving the extra life, but that's a small amount of extra life, and they are going for this Baron here, but, Fnatic knows it's happening. They have that little cheeky ward right over the wall there, so that Eclypsia is going to have to back out and are a little worse for wear.
And we do see the engagement goes down. Paranoia dive now. Let's keep our eyes on Nocturne as he's pushing forward. The Zhonya's Hourglass was proc by Morgana, or has not been proc by Morgana, so the first one to fall is in fact going to be Felix of Soraka. Guardian's Angel has now been proc, but Lamia has got very good hit points. Shockwave finally gets used from Peke, but it only manages to pull Sona backwards. It's going to be flashing over the wall to pick up a kill, so Ezreal is going to go down in the background. Soaz is super tanky, but the only member of Fnatic that's still remaining. And that fight really, really going in favor of Eclypsia. They committed to the fight. They got a couple of people with the crescendo, and truth be told, ultimates were not necessarily optimally used from everybody. Peke was forced out of the fight so early on. He could not use that command protect. He could not use that command dissonance. And with this Baron buff and the way that Eclypsia are playing, Fnatic may be going down 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's 21-8, and this Baron will likely come up. It would be very, very, very tricky for Soaz to manage to steal this. It is almost down. I mean, he might pick up a kill, but that likely doesn't mean he's going to get Baron. Does not, in fact, get Baron, and now is in a load of trouble. Still has his flash up, though, so he's going to be okay. The other interesting thing is, at least on my screen, I still see that Wish is up for Phelox. You never want to lose, fight a team fight for one, but particularly lose a team fight where you still have, those big ultimates up, waiting in your back pocket. That would be an extra 220 life to everyone. And another issue, though, is, Phelox was with Lamia getting punished in that bottom lane, and Lamia has been doing a lot of solo pushing, a lot to catch up, is level 15, almost 16, but Phalux still only level 10, which means doesn't even have level 2 Wish. So that is really, really unfortunate for them thus far. We do see the pickup of the Void Staff coming down from Orianna, so going to be able to do, you know, a little bit more damage there. At so much gold, 12,000 gold, 316 farm. But, I mean, her items at this point are still not that much more impressive than Morgana's. Morgana has Zhonya's Hourglass and a Death Cap. Morgana is essentially, you know, at the same point in time as is Orianna. So Orianna clearly making a lot of gold, clearly doing a good job in that farming capacity. But really, all that gold hasn't paid off, and now it's 31 minutes into the game. The other team has Baron. I mean, Xpeka has 2,000 gold in the bank, but he needs to sell it, she being Orianna, of course, needs to sell that extra, you know, those GP10s, really purchase those big ticket items, because there's only going to be a couple more team fights, most likely. The way these things have been going, these have been very dramatic wins from Eclypsia, and one or two more of those could be a push for the GG, so they have to be very, very careful that, you know, one, the game lasts long enough for those GP10 items to pay off, or two, that, you know, those GP10 items are really converted into these big ticket items. We do see Xpeka going back, might pick up the next big item in their arsenal.
In fact, decides to cancel the recall to potentially defend this middle tower. I very quickly looked at the ability power while you were discussing that, and there was something you said which just played on my mind for a brief moment. Pekka currently sitting 348 ability power, Morgana on the other side currently sitting on 465, so, you know, 100 AP difference between these two champions, and the fact that Morgana's got that Zhonya's Hourglass on board. What is stronger in your opinion, the 350 plus the Void Staff penetration, or the 460 plus the utility of that Hourglass?
When you're Morgana, you need the Hourglass, so there's no doubt in my mind, you know, Morgana's build is the right one for her, and you know, I would definitely go that route. At the same time, Orianna doesn't normally have to get into the, you know, the brunt of the battle, but we've seen games where Orianna does get kind of caught out, where it's really useful to have that, you know, that extra 2 seconds of invulnerability. That's really, really huge in any team fight, to, you know, bring the focus on you and then suddenly just back off, you know, be like, okay, you can't hit me for 2 more seconds. And they do have 2 people, they have a very interesting dance going on down bottom here between Kog'Maw and Ezreal, with Soraka backing, and on the other hand they had, you know, 4 versus 3 in the top lane. Nothing happens from Eclypsia, and like I mentioned, they do want something to end here. They do want to figure out something. Killmore, you know, going ahead and just poking down the turret, which I really like. I mean, those turrets don't regenerate life. I mean, everyone knows this, but I think it's worth saying again, just because if they don't regenerate life, and if you know, can land 2-3 hits, do a good 400 damage to it, that's worthwhile, especially if you have, you know, the lifesteal to just come back, you know, farm a couple minions, be back to full life, and you're not in any danger of really being caught.
And just take a look at that. Lamia, Biochem Barrage, a couple of criticals, and Olaf gets chunked down to about 2/3 hit points. So Kog'Maw has that Phantom Dancer, he has the Infinity Edge completed, he's picked up a longsword, so I'm going to assume that that's going to be a part of a Last Whisper, more likely than not. But hitting pretty hard with a couple of those auto attacks, and Olaf with his Aegis of the Legion and Guardian's Angel, if he's held in place before he can get Ragnarok off, Kog'Maw may actually be able to deal enough damage to pick up some kills. But look at how Eclypsia are playing this. They're not giving Fnatic the chance for a big engagement, and they're not getting... Oh, the shockwave goes out. It doesn't even manage to break the spell shield of Schleier. And, or in fact it did actually. That was a bit weird, but the shield was still up. But the ultimate is now down, and that means for the next 75 seconds, Pekka is unable to use that huge AoE damage against their opponents.
Right, and Eclypsia doing a good job, like we saw in last game, where they're not going to focus, you know, 5 people on one turret. They're going to, you know, be convinced that they can all be safe and do a little bit of split pushing, even if their team doesn't really, you know, call for said split pushing, even if their team isn't one of the most ideal split pushing teams, they're doing it and they're keeping aggression on multiple turrets at the same time, which is a good showing from them. And they don't really have the luxury of, you know, trying to catch out Olaf before he ultimates, because Ragnarok, of course, breaks all CC. He has that Guardian Angel also. He has, you know, 2959 life. Actually, I saw him a moment ago where he had over 3000 life, so I don't know what has changed. Perhaps he had popped a red potion and that is worn off. That is, you know, likely a possibility there. But I mean, he has about 3000 life. yes, Kog'Maw chunked him down, but Kog'Maw's critical strikes were only doing, 215 damage. He's not going to critical strike every time, and that would take, around 15 shots to kill that Olaf for the first time, where, certainly if Olaf is charging at him, charging towards that Kog'Maw, he's not going to be able to, throw out a stream of uninterrupted attacks, much less 15 attacks, when Olaf can bear down on him, use that true damage, and he might win a fight against Olaf. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying, he's going to have to kite, he's going to have to, be a little bit worried about Olaf getting into those back lines. So yeah, things are not looking good for Fnatic at this point. But we mentioned all game long how well Eclypsia has been doing. Has picked up that Athene's Unholy Grail. It's still, how much AP, 517. That is pretty darn impressive. Morgana on the other hand, 520. So it's 36 minutes in. You haven't really paid off in the respect of straight AP. You do have that extra, the bonus of the penetration from the Void Staff. I don't know. I mean, you asked me, Quickshot, which would you rather have on your team at this point in time? Eclypsia playing a great Orianna, but 1-3-3, or Morgana at this point, who has great zoning potential?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the play style. The fact that Morgana needs that Zhonya's Hourglass, needs that 2 seconds of invulnerability. And when you consider the amount of burst that can come down from Orianna, the amount of burst that can come down from Malphite, and of course that CC. So, the Black Shield and the Hourglass allows Morgana to stay alive, allows her to reposition, and then get off one more combo, maybe one more Dark Binding, one more Tormented Soil, and that's all that you need to win a fight at this stage. So, I think the utility is better. Fnatic are going to be so careful here, face checking. Very wise using the Living Artillery to poke the bushes, but Peke going super aggressive. Shirelia's Reverie comes out, flashes past the Crescendo. He's going to carry on running as best as he can. Shockwave has not been used just yet. He's going to finally go off, pick up some damage, but Peke's going to be the first to fall. Lamia has been focused down from Olaf. He's going to be able to proc Olaf's Guardian Angel, but that's all he's going to manage to do before he gets blown up and turns into a purple stain on the floor. Soaz is super tanky in this backline. Jukes past the Dark Binding. Triple kill for Nocturne onto Soraka. Now he's going to turn his attention over onto Malphite. The only member of Fnatic still standing is Soaz's Malphite, and they simply cannot stand these big engagements, getting completely caught out from that overly aggressive positioning from Peke, and it just allowed them to get jumped on, allowed them to get caught out from a great engagement from Eclypsia, and I think that is potentially the game.
It is potentially. It's definitely going to be this inhibitor. They have about 12 seconds before Maokai is up. They're going to push down on this turret. They can certainly take down that one turret. Are they going to get the next one? Quite possibly. Soaz is going to come in and disrupt them, and is doing quite a bit of damage to the both of them while taking no damage himself.
And take a look at that, though. He is wearing a Thorn Mail, so that is potentially why both Nocturne and Ezreal relying on those auto attacks. I think that was an unstoppable force that finally went out. I'm so fresh is trying to get away. He's going to be permanently slowed from that seismic shard. Eclypsia Kill War is going to use that Arcane Shift to get over the wall, and a nice Dark Binding cancels that aggression. But that 4,000 gold lead has finally grown into something more sizable. Now sitting at around 7,000. Living Artilleries are going to give vision on cells, or yet another one to provide vision. He's going to try pick one up, but the damage is really good. Command, Dissonance, and Protect, plus all that DPS. Are we actually going to see a Baron buff being picked up from Fnatic while Malphite attempts to defend 2 naked inhibitors?
I think that is what's going on here. Of course, there is no smite to, steal it away. Nocturne is down for the next 22 seconds, but Havoc is causing a little bit of disruption there, and Ezreal's coming in as well. Will it be enough?
Beautiful shockwave pulls all 3 members of Eclypsia back. Schleier throws out the Soul Shackles, immediately follows up, manages to steal away, or manages to pick up the Baron buff rather. I forgot Orianna is on Fnatic, and they are going to all run away. Havoc 24 may even be able to get to safety, in fact. He's going to carry on running as best as he can. Malphite actually uses an unstoppable force just to close the gap. Seismic Shard to pick that one up. Sona still alive. Finally going down. But that was a good shockwave from Orianna. Inhibitor.
It was a good shockwave. Will they get there in time to protect this third inhibitor? Maokai is going to be there, but he's actually protecting his turrets, doesn't run straight to the third inhibitor, and the third inhibitor normally means death. I mean, they have Baron buff, but they are not going to be able to leave their base for the next 5 minutes, certainly, and there's going to be 3 waves of super minions coming down. Now, certainly, Fnatic has Baron buff, Eclypsia has a lot of super minions. Are they going to continue fighting? Who knows?
Well, 66,000 gold to 61,000 gold. For the better part of the next 4 minutes or so, there's going to be 3 waves of super minions. If Eclypsia just choose to bide their time and only commit once there's 2 to 3 super minions per lane, that could be a very easy team fight win. You underestimate the hit point total and the damage that those super minions actually put down. And even if they're not attacking the champions, there's only one Nexus turret available.
Right. I mean, I never underestimate it because I've died a number of times from those super minions. It's hard to fight them off. So it looks like Eclypsia's strategy: push all the lanes in, wait for Sona to get up there, and then perhaps they will engage. I mean, it'll be a pretty scary engage because, as you mentioned, they're only 5,000 gold down. Xpeke picked up a Ryla's Crystal Scepter, so has that now in the bank as well. Malphite is so incredibly tanky, picked up a Guardian's Angel, so they couldn't kill him once, and now they have to attempt to go ahead and kill him twice. I mean, there's not a lot of consistent... There is going to be an engage here.
Shockwave is going to pull 3 members of Eclypsia together. Guardian's Angel has been procced on kill wall. Is it going to be enough? The Soas is trying to chase him down. I'm So Fresh is now taking on 3 members of Fnatic. Make that 4. Finally going to go down in the background. Now they've turned their attention over to Habit 24. Sona's going to be trying to run away. Ezreal got forced out of that fight so early on. Has actually come back in. Deals quite a lot of damage with that Mystic Shot and the Essence Flux. Now all of a sudden Fnatic the ones that may be in trouble. And that is huge! The command attack and the dissonance just melts the hit points of Ezreal and Olaf. Double kill for Peke. Seismic Shard, Flash, Ground Slam, couple of auto attacks. Malphite wants this kill. Attack and dissonance. Somehow they pick this one up. Finally in the background, Havoc 24 goes down. But while all of that is going on, the super minions have taken out the final Nexus turret. Fnatic with the ace. But they have no turrets. They have no inhibitors. What can they do?
It looks like they're going to attempt to push down this turret. Obviously, Malphite can tank anything. They can certainly take anything. They have to defend this turret. It looked like Havoc actually, went away from the fight, helped out those minions. But now Fnatic going to be able to get this turret, maybe get the next one. I mean, those super minions are doing some good work, but Soa is so incredibly tanky, especially with that command protect from Orianna, getting that extra, extra 30 armor and magic resistance, and not including the extra, health from that shield. He's essentially didn't take any damage from that turret over the course of time, so that was a great showing. But now Fnatic, probably this next fight won't have that same Baron buff, won't have that same advantage. The last fight turned out so incredibly well because they caught Ezreal with the Unstoppable Force, they caught him with the Shockwave, they instantly burst down his Guardian Angel, and then he wasn't able to get back into the battle, and he is of course their primary damage dealer without a doubt. So was a really troubling fight from Eclypsia, but at the same time they took out that last turret. That's not good for Fnatic. It's really, really hard to win a game when you have no turrets left on the map. Absolutely no turrets. But if anyone can, it would be Fnatic. They are a team that has come back from such deficits before.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I've actually been fortunate enough to actually shoutcast a few of them. I remember when they were playing off against SK Gaming about 2.5 months ago, and managed to use a split pushing strategy with Twisted Fate to come back after being down 2 inhibitors. We shoutcasted a game, I believe maybe you and I actually did as well, against Moscow 5. They were down, again 2 inhibitors and managed to pull it back. They've got to be so careful though, because Ezreal is pushing on this bottom lane. Take a look at the gold numbers right now in the bottom lane. 20,000 gold on Orianna at the moment.
Whew. That is impressive. That is very, very impressive. I don't even know what to say about that, except, I mean, she's getting to her 6-item build. It is 45 minutes in, but other people have their 6 items almost lined up as well. So that extra gold, soon going to be overkill. She doesn't need all that gold if this game lasts any longer, which it might.
And
it very well might.
is forced to use that Ragnarok just to get away to safety. Peke using the command attack and the dissonance just to put some damage. Unstoppable Force, that's going to hold Kill War in place. He is going to go down. That is the scary champion gone. Ezreal has been removed from the fight. They've only managed to retake that inhibitor on the top lane. Is the middle one up as well? I think that was taken as well. So there's going to be 2 lanes of super minions. Olaf in the background, I don't know if you were watching his hit points, but Peke just kept running up to him, dealing command attack, command dissonance, command attack, command dissonance, chunking his hit points down over and over and over. So Olaf was forced back to save his Guardian's Angel. They managed to catch Ezreal, who was trying to force down that bottom inhibitor. And that means there's only 40 seconds left with Ezreal down, and I suppose Baron will be up in the next 2 or 3 minutes?
That sounds about right, if not even earlier than that. It will actually be up at 46:44, so 1 minute exactly from the moment I'm saying this. And there are 2 inhibitors up from Fnatic, so they can actually push down on here. They have 20 seconds of kind of leniency, 20 seconds without Ezreal. And Ezreal still needs to build to that last item, has 1,200 gold in the bank, needs an extra, I think an extra 1,000 gold will be enough to pick him up the Infinity Edge, 1,000, maybe 1,000, 1,200, or thereabouts. Oh my goodness,
Paranoia
might be in a bad spot here.
Brilliant flash, in fact. That was a huge flash through the entire thickness of that
That was a really
wall.
far flash.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one before.
Yeah, we've seen actually some fail flashes today too, you know, members of the teams just getting a little bit scared, wanting to back out there, but Phalux wasting the flash there, but it's not a terrible thing because I don't really want to focus Phalux early on in these fights. I mean, Phalux only has that Shurelya's Reverie to her name, really, and a Kindle Gem to add to it. So a lot of cooldown resistance, but not really a lot of big-ticket items. Did just pick up the Zeke's Herald, as I was mentioning, how they have no support items. So a big pickup, that'll help Kog'Maw do even more damage. And we see Kog'Maw double Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, Last Whisper. He is strong. He is very, very strong. And they actually see Kill War. They see Kill War messing around bottom lane, but that means they're ignoring the top lane. If Kill War can get away here, it'll be worth it.
Does manage to arcane shift over the wall, immediately flash from Soaz. Soaz doesn't have that unstoppable force to follow it up. Living Artilleries are chunking him down, but he's going to be able to get away. 419 base movement speed plus all the mobility that arcane shift gives is really, really strong. And really, really nicely done from Killwood to actually get away from both Malphite and Kog'Maw. But double Phantom
Dance
on
made it
Lamia.
worthwhile. Yeah, double Phantom Dancer. We've seen that. That seems to be the go-to pickup. I'm a little bit confused because red buff and blue buff are not being picked up here. I feel like, you know, Eclypsia has the time. They're willing to do this. But it is 48 minutes in, and Fnatic has the lead in gold. They're down 7 kills, but they have that gold lead. Really, really kind of an impressive, you know, feat there. Killwar has to be very, very careful not to be caught. Reverie's being used to chase him. He does just Arcane Shift away, is going to be safe. And now we see just a rush towards the base coming down from Zelzor here.
Paranoia comes up, Ventral Maelstrom is down, look at the Nexus L, 3,500, they cannot stop Ragnarok, his Guardian Angel has been procced, Olaf, Nocturne, all those are required, just completely diving through absolutely everybody. And wow, Eclypsia defeat Fnatic 2-0 in the semi-final. That means Fnatic are out. Eclypsia advance to the grand final, and we will be having a very quick chat with I'm So Fresh in a moment or two. I do need to grab a quick drink of water and throw up an advert break, so do not go anywhere. We will have a brief chat to I'm So Fresh about that game, find out what he thought, and then of course we'll be jumping into Game Hoppers versus Team Mega Shock immediately after that.